sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and listen to our podcast on Apple and Spotify. Today, I am so excited to welcome Temisha Mitchell Young, who is the founder of Live Life Young Golf, a family-focused golf and lifestyle brand rooted in joy, connection, and growth on and off the course. With over 20 years experience in the game, Temisha believes golf teaches lessons that extend far beyond the fairway, shaping confidence, character, and lifelong memories. As a wife and mom to 2 boys, her mission is simple: to ensure her children not only learn the game, but truly love it. By sharing her family's golf journey, Temisha inspires other parents, especially moms, to embrace the course as a space for bonding, learning, and personal growth. Through Live Life Young Golf, she encourages families to get involved in the game by making golf more inclusive, approachable, and fun for the next generation. And with that, I am so excited to welcome Temisha to the show. Welcome, Temisha, to the Golf Mom Mindset Podcast. We're so happy to have you here.
I am so excited to be here and to talk to you. So we're recording.
Likewise. And I feel so blessed that we connected on Instagram, and I immediately resonated with your posts, your messaging, not only as another woman navigating the golf world, but as a mom. And I just love the positivity that you put out there. And with that, I'd love to know more about your history with golf. I know you have 20 years experience, and I'm sure your relationship with golf has even evolved over time, becoming a golf mom. So if you can touch a little bit on the background and then kind of where you are today to how you became a golf mom and how you got your children involved in golf.
Okay, well, thanks for that. So just to tell you a little bit how I got involved with golf, my dad exposed me to golf as a little girl, but growing up in Montgomery, Alabama, you didn't see many women on the golf course or women of color. And so I was kind of intimidated, enjoyed spending the time. To me, with my dad was the most important thing. Riding on the golf cart, being at the driving range, having that moment with my dad was really how I got exposed to golf. And then once I got out of college, I was working for a company in Atlanta and I got to work and nobody was there. And I was like, well, where is everybody? And they were like, they're at the Masters. And I'm like, okay, well, why didn't I get invited to the Masters,
Mm.
right? And
Right.
so I said that moment was the moment where I was like, I'm not going to get left out again,
Good
right?
for
And
you.
so I went home back to Alabama and I was like, Dad, let's go play golf, right? And so he was like, well, I've been trying to get you to play golf all your life. And
Mhm.
so from there, I, kind of start playing with him. Long story short, I joined a women's golf league. That's when I really learned the game of golf, started to play on a regular basis, took lessons, and the rest has been history. And I've been playing golf for consistently for over 20 years.
That's amazing. And I just love the tie-in with your dad and how, as a young woman, it was so eye-opening of like, oh, finally everything your parents have been teaching you is like clicking now. And I'm sure there was a lot of satisfaction for your dad too.
Yes, absolutely. And so we try to play as a family. Live Life Young Golf is really about family golf, right? So my son, he plays on, junior golf competitions, US kids tournaments, Georgia Golf Association tournaments. But it's really not about him being the next, Tiger Woods or Rory, right? It's really about him enjoying and learning the game. I want the game to be fun now, right? I still want him to learn the proper golf etiquette and the rules of the game. But right now it's about really just learning and having fun. And so our focus is about making golf fun for families. And that's what we're really all about, and sharing our journey as a family.
Sure, which you do such a great job on Instagram with your visual storytelling. Can you tell your audience how old are your 2 boys?
Yes. So my oldest, Ocean, he's 10, and my youngest is 3. His name is Freedom. And
Okay.
so little gap there where Ocean is a little more serious about the game, understand. The 3-year-old, he just likes to be on the golf course. Like he likes to ride in the cart. His favorite thing to do is to literally lay out on the grass and look up in the sky, right? And just run as fast as he can to the next hole. And so that's, 2 different golf experience, but they
Mhm.
like golf differently, and hopefully, Freedom will grow up and wanna play the game as well.
Sure. I'm sure with all the inspiration around him, he will. Would you say how old was Ocean when you first like let him swing a club or started lessons? And then how old was he when he did his first tournament?
Yeah, great question. So, I was like a golf fanatic, so I was like, "My child is gonna come out with a."
Love that.
So his first time on the golf course, he was about 1, honestly. So, we would take him with us, my husband and I, when we would play. And so, we started with, the plastic, little
Yeah.
golf set, and he would putt when we were on the green. So he started at 1. We started formal lessons at 3 just to, get exposure around other little kids so that it could not just be something you do with mommy and daddy and become boring, but something you can do with other kids. I think golf can be lonely for kids sometimes because it's such an individual sport. To put them in groups with other kids that's not necessarily competitive, I think helps them to grow and love the game. And so at 3, we enrolled him in kind of group classes,
Okay.
and he did his first tournament at the age of, I wanna say 6, almost 7. As you know, in US kids and tournaments, it's probably about 6 or 7 tournaments in a season. We play about 3 at the most, so we're still not like, competitive, enough for him to get some exposure, understand what he needs to work on,
Mhm.
understand, what the other kids your age are doing, right? Just to understand the competitive landscape of golf, right? And so that's kind of how we are on the tournament, I guess, circuit, if you can say that.
Well, that's awesome. And how would you say, from the time he started at the young age to now, how is his mental state in terms of, winning and losing? Have you seen a transformation in him, or has he stayed pretty consistent with how he feels on the course, win or lose?
Yeah, so this is the behind the scenes. It was very frustrating because in his other walks of life, he's very successful, right? Like academic wise in school, superstar. So this was his first time really feeling like, well, I'm not the best at what I do, right? And so that frustration and emotions were kicking in, and we were learning as parents, like in a tournament situation, how do you handle those emotions? And then when you don't win, what's that conversation like afterwards, right? And so it has been challenging, but I'm just loving the growth and how he's handling those challenging moments. It correlates so much with life, right? And I think that's what makes golf such a cool sport because it's like, okay, you hit a bad shot. Do you give up on that hole?
Hmm.
Do you shake that off and you continue to play? My thing is like you never give up on a hole, right? Yeah, you may hit it, in the rough, but you can get back on course,
Yeah.
right? And
You can
that's
still
correlation
recover
with
and
life, right?
totally
You
like
can
get back
get
on
back
course in
on track.
life.
Yeah. And so we use golf as, building a child that integrity is important, right? Are you keeping the accurate? Did you count all your scores, right? So it's those life lessons for us. And it's just amazing seeing him regulate his emotions, learning how to be honest and, even, you may have to call out somebody you're playing like, no, you missed a stroke. How do you handle that conversation of conflict? So yeah, it's amazing to see, but it's definitely challenging as a mother emotionally.
Hmm.
Seeing them go through that is one of the few sports that you can caddy for your child, so you're right there in the moment,
Exactly.
like with other sports, you kinda sit in maybe the stands and you watch, but when you're caddying for your child, it's a different feeling and emotion, and I've had to step away as a mom, and say, because mom and dad so I've been playing longer than my husband, so my knowledge of the game and the rules, I'm a little more advanced, even though he plays as well. So I'm the one kind of teaching, okay, no, you can't do this, or this is, the
Yeah.
rules for that. And so it can be emotional because mommy's saying, right? Versus somebody else. And so I've had to step back as a mom and say, well, maybe your dad should caddy for you.
Yeah.
And it's been tough because I'm like the golf mom, right?
Right. No, and gosh, I can resonate with you so much. I mean, and I come from the experience of not having any prior
golf knowledge or experience since having to literally look up the terms along with my son as we're learning. But there's something about mamas, right, that they put so much of their emotional bank on us. Golf, unlike any other sport, you're right there. So as much as I'm trying to not be a helicopter mom and hovering right as they're playing, right? So it's really hard to find that balance of supporting them emotionally, not hovering, and yet your entire role as a caddy is to hover over them.
Right.
I've also had to step back, and most recently, we hired my son a caddy for a couple of his tournaments. Also, because I've had some back issues and was physically not the best capacity to help him, but having a caddy for him was honestly life changing because I watched him mature in a way that he doesn't with me. So I'm like, what am I doing wrong? But also, he ended up getting his best score in one of them and placing second place, and just having an outside perspective too, and not in a way using mommy as your crutch for
Yes.
emotions and all of that. But also, I don't want to step away from that role either. I want to continue on that role. So finding that balance is
Mhm.
challenging. And I think talking to other moms like yourself helps because it's like, okay, you're not alone. Together, we can all kind of give each other tips and advice. And those who've been through the trenches, and then the moms who have the older kids can give us advice on
Yeah.
how to handle this. But I love your how you touched on how it's really just a journey of life and, learning these skills that in other life situations they don't really get until they're older. So the fact that you're able to give your son at this tender age of 10 these skills that he normally in normal life circumstances wouldn't be getting until he's 16. I would think, I don't have a 16-year-old yet, but I would think by the time he's 16, he'll be well equipped to handle those really tough moments on and off the course, right?
Yeah, and that's what, like I said, is unique about the sport. It translates so well with life. So my husband and I are always like, what he's learning now is gonna pay off, right? The frustration, even the crying, like they're going through these challenging situations, but it's definitely the game is preparing them for life. And so you just kind of have to walk alongside them to the next hole.
That's awesome. With golf, what is it you and your husband do besides just giving him the opportunity to experience golf and play? What are you 2 doing to help fuel that passion for golf? Is there anything special that you're doing?
Yeah, so to me, making golf fun. So we're a member of Smoke Rise Country Club here in Atlanta area, kind of Metro Atlanta, and they have a family league. And so that was something we joined this season that has been really fun. It's, you're playing best ball with your family. Other families are participating as well. It's so relaxed. And so to me, making it fun will make him more, I think our thing is we want him to get up and say, "I wanna go to golf practice." Right now, it's more like 50-50 where it's like,
Mhm.
"Okay, we need to go to practice," right?
Yeah,
But, I'm seeing, like, the change in him, like, we've been focused on fun golf lately and not necessarily, the routine practices with coaches. It's like, let's take a step back. Let's focus on having fun. And I've seen like his level of self-initiative with golf change because he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is so fun." Right? I
that's
think
awesome.
before it was like mommy and daddy are making me a little bit. I'm having a good time when I'm doing well, but when I'm not doing well, I don't, I don't wanna do something else. So now he's at a I think at a age, I think the age makes a difference as far as maturity as well. Some kids mature, differently than others. I've seen kids who are 5 who are like, "That's all I wanna do is breathe golf," right? Yeah, but I think some kids it's definitely a maturity thing, and then the more they enjoy the sport, the more they want to take the initiative to lead, as far as owning their, how can I say it? Their love for the game and own path in the game really is, as they mature.
How would you say with, Live Life Young Golf, you've been able to use that as a platform to connect with other golf parents?
Yeah, that's been I think the most fun part. Like, I started the channel when he was 3, and I posted 1 video, right? And then, a couple of years ago, I was like, you know what? A lot of people ask me about golf, how to get my child involved in golf, women who want to play golf. And I was like, well, why don't I just share, like, to motivate people? Like, it's really like anybody can play this sport. There are resources, there's, ways to get involved. And so that's where, starting the platform really started. And so it's so cool when you meet people that you're connected to online, in person, at tournaments or at events. And then, like you said, it builds this community, right? Of people that they're real people, and sometimes you see people on social and you don't feel like they're real, but it's other families who are going through different journeys, but similar because we're all connected through golf. And it's just been a fun ride this past 2 years. And it's so cool to meet the greater kind of golf community in this way. And it's people I probably would have never met if I didn't start the page, right? And that, now I feel like they're my golf besties and
Yeah,
friends. So it's really cool.
that's great. Where do you see your brand growing? Do you have hopes to grow it bigger than it is? And if not, that's okay too. I mean, if you're content with how it is, but I'm curious is where you see this brand growing and factoring in, especially as your 3-year-old starts to maybe become more into it, how you see this turning into really the family brand that you started.
Yeah, it really, like I said, we want to make golf fun, right? We want it to be a source where people can find information and resources about golf, how to get started. My ultimate goal is to have like a big family golf tournament, right? Where you can bring your child, have fun, and just use golf as a way to build relationships and memories for families. And so, that's really what it's about. I would love it to grow where, we are known to be like the family of golf, right? And my little one and his journey will probably be totally different than my oldest. But yeah, that's really the vision. It's really just making memories on the course that they can look back when they're older and say, you know what? I remember spending hours with my parents playing golf. I mean, what other thing can you do and spend that much time
Right.
playing a sport with no tablet, no device, right? It is just you
Like you
and the
said,
world.
as a family, and I think my hope too secretly is that my son still wants to do this as a teenager, so he'll wanna hang out with me for 3 hours
Right?
uninterrupted, you know? And
That's
that's the
so
time
true.
when they're on the golf course with you when probably the most intimate conversations may happen, right? And to have that bond and the hope is that when they're older, they have very fond memories like you do with your dad, of just your childhood being quality time, which in this day and age, right, is becoming less and less with families that are disconnected, run by devices and stuff. The time around the dinner table and that stuff is becoming diminished. Finding a activity that you can do as a family. I mean, I cannot think of anything better, right? Of course, we're
Exactly.
biased, but
We are kind of biased, but yeah, but it's true. Like, and as you age, right? I think of my father. I'm still able to play golf with him,
that's
and it's
amazing.
you can always come back to that, like, it's somehow you always find a tea time, like, if you say, "Hey, let's get together for a tea time," you could be busy, but you're like, "Oh, I can work a tea time."
You let me clear my schedule, right? You might not clear your schedule for most things, but most people, if they love golf, will clear it for a tea time, right?
Exactly. So, yes, I think it's a sport that transitions with age, right? You really don't
Mhm.
age out of golf. And
No.
like I said, that's the nice thing. It's like we invest time and energy with our kids in the sport. Hopefully it turns into a collegiate opportunity or professional opportunity as well. But guess what? If it doesn't, you can use this in your career. You can use it just for a social, within your community. So it's a sport as parents that we can invest in and we can see the return on investment for a lifetime, which is cool.
Yeah, I love that, and that's kind of my motto too, like, with my son who's in his head, he's like, "I'm going pro, mom," and as a mom, you wanna fuel and support the dream, but in my mind, I'm like, if he just becomes a successful young adult who can have conversations with people, look them in the eye, have
Yes,
respect and manners, like, as a mom, I'd be like, I succeeded, right? You pat yourself on the back. So, and to your point, the skills that you would have for a lifetime, no matter what you do in this world. And a big reason I started this podcast is to interview others that are like, the clothing brand that I just interviewed, to show kids, hey, if you don't go pro, it's not failure. There are 100,000 other jobs in the golf industry you could do. You could launch a golf business and still be out there on the course every day, living your dream and sometimes shifting that perspective. Cause I think there's a lot of glamour that people put on about going pro, right? But that's not the path for everyone. And it's not as glamorous as it looks. It's a lot of long days on the road away from your family. It can be lonely. So there's a downside too to going pro, right? So I think showcasing children and even adults that, hey, maybe going pro doesn't have to be the end goal. Maybe something else is out there, even better for what their calling is, right?
Right. Exactly. In the industry is so big, right? From the
So big.
business side. Uh, course management. I tease my 3-year-old because his favorite thing is to lay in the grass and then rake the bunkers. Like he loves to. So I was like,
So
maybe
cute.
maybe you'll design a course one day,
Right? You could become the golf architect.
So
Then
there's
you would
so
have a
many
free family golf for life.
for life. Wouldn't that be perfect, right?
Yeah,
Well, there is
absolutely.
so many opportunities in this industry from being an influencer or just
Right.
marketing and branding products. So the skills they're learning just by playing the game will transcend. And I told people I got a job offer on the golf course. And people say, you do business on the golf course. You hear that all the time. But no, that's real. Like
Yeah.
it is really real. I saw someone and they were like, I was just talking about you. Are you interested in this job? And I was like, okay. And
Wow.
literally, I had an interview the next day and got the
That's
job.
uh, that's amazing.
So yeah, so it's real. It is
Yeah.
real.
Well, and just goes to show those networking skills really pay off, right? And you get yourself out there. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Being, a mom, wife, business owner, golf influencer too, how do you juggle it all? Or is there even the right term for that? Is it just a day by day, fly by the seat of your pants? Or have you found a good balance for all that you do and just running your household and keeping everything together?
Yeah, I don't think there's a balance. I think you kind of have to set like, okay, priorities. For me personally, I'm a part of a golf league. During our golf season, we play once a month, and I keep that appointment. Like that is my time to play golf with the ladies. It is, my thing. Our family golf league, right? We do that on Thursdays. We're committed to that. And so I think you kind of set like your golf kind of priorities and kind of, keep those as like these are non-negotiables and everything else just kind of works around. So you balance the way you can each and every day or during the week. Priorities shift. Sometimes I'm posting all the time. Sometimes, I have to dial it back and not post every day. So it is a challenge, but definitely worth every bit of it as he's like progressing in golf. My golf has stepped back a little bit. I don't play as much as I used to, but it's okay because it's not about me in this season. And I'm okay with watching him
Yeah.
grow and develop in the game. And so I think it shifts the priorities as life shifts. And you kind of have to find the joy where you are in that season.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love the seasons because, as you know, having a 3-year-old and a 10-year-old, you know how quickly life changes from year to year. And, one day you're scheduling your life around naps, and then all of a sudden there's no more naps. And so it's a season, right? And same here, 'cause I've had a lot of friends say, you need a hobby, you need something, because like all of my efforts into my son, I'm like, but I'm okay with not having that right now because I feel I'm in a season of life that my commitment is to him. And I'm okay with it. I don't feel like I'm lacking. Maybe some people would, but I don't feel that way. So, but I also look at it as a season. I have a very short window
That's right.
to be there and enjoy the time. Before I know it, he might not want me around. Yeah, and it's just I look at it as a season, and we're constantly evolving as moms and changing and everything. So I love that you mentioned the season of life.
Yes, definitely can resonate with that.
With your oldest son and also you, being that you are out there golfing all the time and you hit a bad shot. I know you said, okay, move on to the next shot and all that, but how do you not allow the comparison game to get in your own head and then certainly your son's? Because like you said, you show up and you're probably competing with some of the best people in town, in the state. And even now with social media, you probably see so much on social media that it's probably hard to not feel, I know for me, feel like, are we behind? Are we in enough tournaments? Am I posting my son enough on Instagram? And it's hard to not feel a little bit behind because you see everyone else like thriving. So how do you dial that in for both yourself and then also your son?
I kind of have to, for my son, I definitely fell into that moment of are we doing the right thing and preparing him? But then I have to step back, like, what's his goal? Like, it's not about me or what we see, but what is his goal, right? And for him, man, he just wants to have fun, right? So this is his season of fun. And when we're in those tournament situations, it's tough because I know he has the ability and talent, and golf just takes practice, right? It's routine, and he doesn't have the reps that I know in the practice schedule that the other kids have. Right. And that's by choice. And so we're okay with that if he doesn't want to do that. But then we have to remind him they're seeing results based on the effort that they're putting in. Right. And so you have to be okay with, am I doing the best based on the effort that I'm putting in? And if he can say, yes, I'm improving, right? I'm lowering my handicap, right? If he can see that progress, that's winning for us, right? And
Right.
so we cheer on the amazing kids that, we play tournaments with. We're rooting for them, but we have to understand right now our journey is a little different. And that is by his choice, and we're not forcing him, right? And, we'll just see how that goes. But yeah, it is tough because I'm like, your mom knows the formula. I can get you there.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't wanna be the mom that's, like, forcing him to do something that
Hmm.
he just wants to play golf and have fun,
Sure.
not necessarily be a pro golfer, and so I have to, step back and say, "Hey, let's change the bar here for
Right.
me and accept doing this for fun, and whatever comes out of it, we're gonna be ecstatic with that." So,
Right.
yeah, it's tough. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think if they're passionate about it, it's an easier process than forcing a child to do something. So it really depends on the child. Don't feel pressured if your child did not start at 5 and they're not at that same level. If the child is passionate, they put in the work, they have the talent, they can get there. Right. And so
Absolutely.
those are the things I have to remind myself, right? Yeah, he started at 1, but did he really start? No. He's just hanging out. And, and it's funny when people ask me that. I hate to say, yeah, he started technically at 1, but really I would say, it's really he was exposed from about 1 to about, I would say, 4, and then about 5 is when we started really kind of, picking it up there. But yeah.
One of the mindset coaches that I interviewed, he used an analogy about children being like a bag of popcorn. And as you know, not everything pops all at once. Some kernels never pop. Some are but they don't taste very good. And then there's some that's that perfect, buttery, perfect popcorn. And he used that as the analogy of just how some kids, they might not peak until they're 16 or after, puberty and all that. And all of a sudden, they're the best, right? And, just to not compare yourself to others because everybody is on a different journey, right?
Yeah, it just never know, and so I think following their lead and then supporting that, finding the good resources, the coaches, the exposure, all those things matter if they're looking to, really pursue golf as a career, and, the sky's the limit. It really, really is.
What would you say to a family if they came to you and said, Tamisha, I want to get my 7-year-old into golf and I know nothing. Where do I start? What would you, besides saying go to my website and my Instagram page, what would you tell them as kind of like a step by step guide to get involved?
So my go-to is first tee. Like, if you're clueless about golf, right? You're not a part of a club or you're not familiar with the local golf courses in your area, start with First Tee. First Tee has programs nationwide, and it's really there to teach kids, the basics of golf, leadership, integrity, all those things that we want our kids to have. And they can point you in the right direction of resources, right? Based on where your child is, coaches, Youth on Course is another great one that allows kids to play courses all over the country for a very low rate of $5, right? Just to be a member of Youth on Course. So those are the two programs that I always promote because it's nationwide. No matter where you live, there's a First Tee or Youth on Course in your state. And then from there, as you kind of get involved in your community, you'll start to find out more specialized courses, training, and coaches. So First Tee is definitely where to start.
Awesome. Thank you. And I was just introduced to them not too long ago and wish I would have found them years ago. They do some amazing work. You're absolutely right. How do you think golf brands, coaches, and even local clubs could do a better job of making golf feel more inclusive?
Well, that's a great question. I think it's just a matter of, understanding like public courses. Sometimes it's the money drives a lot of the things there, right? People are just trying to get people in, tee times, get them on the range. And for families, it can be intimidating because it's not a place carved out for kids, right? And being inclusive of people with disabilities. It's so many different things, right? And so I think sometimes you just have to make them aware, right? Because I would say I'm bringing my son. I have a little one before we joined a club. And so it was like, oh, okay. Nobody ever told me no, but it was one of those things where I think sometimes if they just kind of just show like have a son, bring your family, have programs that are tailored towards families. They're always, workshops for women. There are always, trainings and things like that. But if something is more family oriented, I think it'll open the door for people to feel more comfortable, right? To bring their families and be more inclusive of all types of people who are interested in the game. It's just I don't know where the intimidation comes from with golf. I think it's just
Maybe,
hard to walk up to a course and say, "Hey, I want to play golf," right?
yeah,
How do I start? And so I
yeah.
think that's the biggest thing is that intimidation factor and
Sure.
affordability. That's another thing.
It is an expensive sport, and I think maybe back in the day, it was this old boys club, right? And to your point, to just walk up to a course and be like, "I'm ready to play." I know for me, I mean, I didn't even know how it worked. I'm like, "How do you schedule a tea time?" Like, which courses are open to the public? Like, you don't really know there's not a lot of resources out there. So unless you are already introduced to the golf world through family or your network, you literally don't know where to begin.
Yeah, and then there are the rules around golf too, right? Like the etiquette, the attire, all those things people don't really know. And so it can be intimidating. And so, coming into the community and workshops and schools and things like that to help kids understand that, okay, so you pass a golf course every day going to school. This is available for you. We want kids to come. This is the next generation.
I look forward to seeing some of the more posts that you have sent around events and maybe be able to attend some of them.
Yes, yes, yes.
What has surprised you the most about being on this golf journey as a family? Has there anything that has just surprised you, caught you off guard, or has everything been kind of expected to flow as is?
Well, I think what was surprising is I thought I was gonna get, like, pushback from bringing my little ones, but they were very welcoming, and I think that's what shocked me. Because at first, it was kinda like, "Well, should I? Shouldn't I, bring, the little one? Is he gonna make too much noise?" And I think I was very shocked that people were like, "Oh, yeah, we want the kids there." And so I think that was very surprising. I got more welcoming of having my family there and people seeing us with our little one like, "Oh, man, I never thought to bring my child," because you
Yeah.
think, "Oh, I'm gonna for men, leave the child at home with the women, right? While they go play golf. But
Yeah.
I'm seeing more fathers bringing daughters and more fathers, bringing, their son and they're playing, right, as a family. And
Right.
so I'm glad to see that because that wasn't always the case that you saw families on the course. Usually you'll see fathers and sons, but I'm loving seeing the dads and the daughters and
Hmm.
then the moms with the
Yeah.
sons
Yeah.
like us.
Exactly, right? I love to see it too. What would be, before we kind of wrap up, you as a family, are there certain mindset tools or sayings that you say to your kid, your whole family, every time before you go out on a golf course that just kind of has like a positive affirmation? Are there different techniques that you do or just sayings that you have before you step on the golf course?
We do. So we have this tradition and we not just on golf, but it's kind of like, sports related, but we all put our hands in, right? And we do like this and we're like, go young, right? And so that's like how we kick off. And we always talk about it's about our attitude. Our attitude is the most important thing. We do not care about who wins. We don't care about medals. We don't care about any of that. What we're proud of is how you handle yourself in the tough moments. And that's what we talk about. And then at the end, we're going to celebrate regardless. If you place or not, we're going to talk about all the great things that you did and just what you overcame. And that's kind of our tradition. Like we always get ice cream after. I was watching a social media reel, and basically the father was basically saying after every tournament, get ice cream, go do something that's special that makes it fun, memorable for your child. And so that's what we try to do. We try to do something fun, a good dinner, a treat, ice cream, because it's a lot of hard work to play 9 holes, right? At our young one's age. And so that needs to be rewarded regardless of what the outcome is.
Sure. Well, the fact that they even saw it through to the end when there might have been
Yes,
times they wanted to give up, to your point, that is worthy of a treat at the end. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. As we kind of wrap up for our audience, which we will have all this in the show notes, but can you tell our audience of golf parents how best they can find you, where they can find the resources, and how they can connect with you?
absolutely. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Live Life Young Golf. In our Instagram, in our information, we do have a link tree to resources that I talked about, like First Tee, Youth on Course. So all those things that help you get started as a family, where to buy, good clubs or just the ins and outs of how to get started with your child. So it's a free downloadable PDF that you can use to really get started. And you can always message me if you have questions about, anything related to golf for families, for women, for children. We just want to make golf accessible, non intimidating, and most importantly, we just want to have fun.
Thank you, Tamisha. And for our audience, we will have links in our bio for you to connect with Tamisha and Live Life Young Golf and all of the resources. So, with that, we thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and share. Share this podcast, share this YouTube with other golf parents, and we'll see you in the next episode.